So what's up guys, it's Ash here and welcome back to a brand new video. Now in today's video guys, we have our custom tactics and player instructions which helped get us rank 1 in the FUT Champions finals this week. You can see this is the screenshot we took of us getting rank 1, and we do have a rewards video if you guys would like to see that in the top right hand corner of the screen. That was the wrong way, it's this way, isn't it? Yeah, because the camera's inverted. But yeah, I'm just going to be showing you guys all the tactics that we used. It was mainly 2 formations, but yeah, let's get right into the video, guys. If you guys want coins for FC24, make sure you check out MMOEXP.com. Their link is down in the description. They're very fast, they're very cheap, they're very reliable, and if you use my code Rema, you can get yourself a lovely 5% discount. Alright then guys, so whenever I went into a game, what I would usually do is use this 4-2-3-1. We primarily use these 3 tactics here. You'll see the defensive one, the attacking one, the ultra attacking one. This ultra defensive slot we didn't really use, so we're just going to ignore that. But whenever I went into a game, I'd primarily use this 4-2-3-1 when starting the game. And the reason for this is the 4-2-3-1 is incredibly balanced. So when you're attacking, it's very good. When you're defending, it's very good. You can play wide with it. You can play narrow with it. It's really good for just feeling out your opponent and seeing what type of player there are. It's very, like, you can adapt it into many situations is what I'm getting at. So these are the tactics that we use for the 4-2-3-1. For the defensive style, guys, we had this on balance because it does give you the best control over your defense. You know, when you want to be like super aggressive, you can be, and then when you want to drop off and be a little bit more passive, you can also do that. So I personally really like balance, but yeah, that's what I was using. For the defensive width, guys, I have this on 40. Now my reasoning for this is so like we can primarily defend the narrow areas to keep a nice compact shape. This makes it very difficult for our opponent to just be able to run and pass right through the middle of us, but we still maintain a bit of width, so when our opponent goes down the wing, for example, we can still get out to him manually and mark him. So it is really, really good, this defensive width. Now for the depth, guys, I don't actually use 71 depth, I use 60 depth, and the reason for this is 60 depth still gives you like a nice high defensive line, but you don't always get that crazy automatic pressure. The reason I don't like 71 depth now is because a lot of the time it can drag your players out of position, and good players will be able to just pick you apart as a result. So 60 depth is better. I feel like I have more control, and I like it much more as a result, guys. Moving on to the build-up play, as always, I have this on balanced. Now, the reason I have it on balanced is, you know, it kind of just fits really well with the 4-2-3-1. You know, I always say the 4-2-3-1's a very balanced formation, so it makes sense. You want a balanced build-up style. You know, when you want to play slow, you can. If you want to speed it up, play a bit faster, you can also do that, right? So balance is great for that. Chance creation, direct passing, everybody should really be using this. It's the only one which allows you to break through that park the bus defense. You know, it can be a little bit boring, but it is a very effective tactic nonetheless. For the width, guys, because I don't want it to be crazy narrow and I don't want it to be crazy wide either, I just go for a balanced width in like 47. This means we can play through the middle and we can play out wide if we like. Really nice and balanced, and I like the general positioning of the cams with this width. For the players in box, guys, I just have this on 6. Get quite a few players into the box, really helps you out. And yeah, we don't overcommit everybody because we don't have it all the way up. For the corners and free kicks, I just have these both on 1, but this really doesn't matter, guys. For the instructions, this is what I was actually running. So on the striker, I just completely left him alone. I didn't even have him on stay central or anything. I just left him alone, and this threw a lot of people off because this player would drift out into weird pockets of space that aren't usually taken up because a lot of people just use like this stay central. And the mixed attack was really good because it means he got more involved in the build-up, which was very useful. Sometimes he'd come short, and with a player like Butragueno with like the technical plus, it's really useful to just like pick the ball up with him in like a deeper area and then just dribble with him. It's really good, guys. So I just left the striker alone. On the cam, guys, I just had him on get into the box across. This just meant he wasn't hesitant to get into the penalty area. And then for the 2 wide cams, come back on defense and get into the box across. It made it defending like a 4-man midfield. So this right cam would defend as a right mid, and then this left cam would defend as a left mid. Now, I wouldn't usually do this, but it just made my defense a lot better. You know, we were just in a better shape, so it just made it easier to defend this weekend. And again, we have them on get into the box for cross, so they're not hesitant to get into that penalty area. Now for the left CDM, guys, I used a more defensive minded midfielder in Shuameni, so I just had him on stay back, cut passing lanes and cover centre. The most defensive settings you can use, really. Stay back's really useful because obviously you don't want him flying forward if he's defending. Cut passing lanes just allows you to regain possession really easily because they cut out those dangerous passes, intercept the ball and whatnot. And then cover centre because we do have the wide cams coming back to defend the wings, so we want the CDMs to cover the central areas. For the right CDM, guys, I use more like a box-to-box style player. So on this player, I leave them on the default settings and then just pop them on cover center. Default settings, because they are box-to-box, we don't want to restrict them all that much. And then cover center, so they do primarily cover the central areas. For my right back, guys, my more attacking fullback, I had them on balanced attack and overlap. This is to give us extra width, stretch out the opponent's defense, and just make it a bit easier and free flow into attack. This is really underrated and really useful, guys. For the other fullback, my more defensive one, I just had them on stay back and overlap, so you always have at least 3 defenders back at a time. But when you send them on a run forward, they'll make the overlapping runs like the other fullback. For the 2 centre backs and the keeper, I just left them alone, guys. Sorry to interrupt the video, guys, but I have noticed around 90% of you that watch the videos are not subscribed to the channel. So if you are enjoying the content or finding it helpful, please consider adding that subscription, as it does help me out massively. Also, don't forget to drop a like on the video as well. And with all that aside, guys, I hope you enjoy. Let's continue. If I wanted to be a little bit more direct, which often happened this weekend and the 4-2-3-1 wasn't cutting it, I would sometimes use this 4-4-2, because the 4-4-2 is great at just playing the basics. So if you need a goal and you want to be direct, it's really effective at doing that with the 2 strikers and just the general positioning of the players. Very basic, but very effective nonetheless. So defensive style, again, we just have this on balance. You know, we've explained this in the 4-2-3-1. Just gives you the best control. The width I have on 42, maybe just a little bit extra width than the 4-2-3-1. Doesn't really mean anything. It's just something I settled on with the formation and it worked quite well. For the depth, again, we have this on 60. You know, I like that high defensive line, but I don't want that automatic press all the time. So again, very similar to the 4-2-3-1 there. The build-up play, again, the exact same on balanced. Balanced, again, just gives you the most control over your build-up. So when you want to play slow, you can. And if you want to speed it up and play a bit faster, you can. Chance creation, again, direct passing, the most important, the most meta option in the chance creation setting. So, you know, it's not something I always like to use, but it is something that is very effective. For the attacking width, guys, again, we use like a mid-range width, so it's not like narrow and it's not wide. We just used 46. Just got your players into these nice areas where they weren't too narrow and they weren't too wide. So I just like that. Players in box, we actually had this on 5, which is bang in the middle. And then corners and free kicks, we had this on 1. So you're going to notice with these tactics, very similar to the 4-2-3-1, but it's mainly the player instructions that are different, as you're going to see here. So on 1 striker, I had them on stay central and getting behind. You know, this is just a really direct instruction. They primarily stay in those central areas, make those runs in behind the high defensive lines. You know, you always know what you're going to get out of this striker. Then you're always looking for that through ball to get as many chances as possible. And then on the other striker, I just had them on stay central and mixed attack. Stay central for the exact same reason as the other striker, so they're primarily in those central direct areas. And then mixed attack, just so we got a bit of help in the build-up. You know, you don't just always want your 2 strikers running in behind. Sometimes it's useful for one of them to like come short, drop back, you know, and help in the build-up. So that is why we did that. For the right mid and the left mid, guys, come back on defense, cut inside, get in behind and get into the box across. Come back on defense, obviously useful, keeps the defensive shape intact, very, very effective. Cut inside, so they start in the wide areas and then make those inverted runs to trick the defenders. It's a very good attacking AI movement, which doesn't get marked all that often, guys. Gets them close to the striker. Very effective. Getting behind, obviously, to utilize their pace to get in behind the defensive line, and then get into the box for cross, so they are not hesitant to get into the penalty area. Now for the left centre mid, guys, the more defensive one, stay back and cover centre. Stay back, obviously we don't want him flying forward, and then cover centre, so he does primarily cover the central areas. For the right centre mid, guys, my more box to box, complete default settings again, and then cover centre. The default settings, because they are more box to box, so we don't want them defending all the time, we do want them to attack as well. And then cover centre, so like the left centre mid, they primarily cover the central areas. And then again, for one of the fullbacks, just balance attack and overlap to give you that extra width, give you the wider option. I did actually flip this around and make it the left back instead of the right back this time. This is just to confuse my opponent a bit, because, you know, when I'm using the 4-2-3-1, it'll be my right back which is overlapping, so he might get used to that. So I just switched it up to the left back to maybe throw him off a bit, which worked quite well a lot of the time. And then for the other fullback, stay back and overlap again, so you always have at least 3 defenders back at a time. And then the 2 centre backs and the keeper, again, I just left them alone. Now, if none of this was working and I just wanted to try something a bit different, I would sometimes use this 4-1-3-2, and I mean sometimes. I probably used it in like 3 or 4 games, to be honest, and it wasn't the most effective, but it was still alright. You know, sometimes it would catch the opponents off guard. This is something I'm looking about changing, because I didn't really like everything about it. You know, I feel like it needs some tweaks after the new update and stuff. So anyway, we did use this. We did still win a lot of games by using this. But yeah, this is what we used. It's mainly from Div 10 Moment on Twitter. This is. We adapted it a few weeks ago to our liking, but I still feel like it needs changing a little bit. So full credit to Div 10 Moment for the idea of this tactic. I will link that. But yeah, defensive style again, balance, most control, width 42 again. So we primarily have that nice narrow and compact defense. This one I did actually use 71 depth to, you know, maybe catch my opponent off, because I do primarily use that 60 depth. So my opponent wouldn't always be used to crazy pressure. But then if I switch to this, my players will start marking him. He'll have to play faster. He'll feel rushed. So this was quite effective when switching to this formation. Build up play, long ball. It just allows you to bypass the press a lot of the time, because your players do make those runs. You know, you can just hoof the ball over and bypass that pressure that people like to use. Balanced chance creation just gave a bit of variety when attacking, you know, because a lot of people are used to that direct passing movement and that, you know, that pattern of play. Balance can actually throw a lot of people off, so it did work quite well, to be fair. Width 36, so our players weren't too far apart from each other, and because it's already like a wider formation with the right mid and left mid, you don't actually need like crazy high width to make these players in the wide areas, if you get what I'm saying. And then players in box, we had this on 6 again, and then corners and free kicks both on. But the player instructions, a bit like the 4-2-3-1 on this left striker, we just completely left them alone. Gives them a bit of freedom, made it a bit easier to attack, a little less predictable as well. For the right striker, just stay central, and then the default settings, you know, just so you always have one striker in those central areas, so you're not, you know, always lacking that option and somebody missing to finish off your chances. But other than that, we left them alone again. For the middle centre mid, just could get into the box across, so when they do get into those areas, they're not hesitant to get into the penalty area. The right mid and the left mid come back on defense, cut inside, come short and get into the box across. You know, we've spoken about these instructions in short in the 4-4-2 formation. The only difference is come short instead of getting behind. Just gives you a bit more possession based options, because your players are coming short to the ball carrier. And yeah, that is it for the left mid and the right mid. The CDM again, stay back and cover center. We don't actually have them on cut passing lanes because there is only one CDM, so you do want them to have a bit more of a balanced defense. So stay back and cover center on that player. And then on one fullback, join the attack and mixed attack. So this is really aggressive. And then the other defender, just balance mix. So again, this tactic's quite aggressive. Not always the most meta, but it can actually throw a lot of people off if you use it in the correct situation. So as I said, I mainly use the 4-2-3-1 and 4-4-2, but I did give this 4-1-3-2 a go when I was struggling a little bit. But yeah, they were my tactics for the FUT Champs weekend where we got rank 1. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to drop it a like, sub to the channel if you are new, and don't forget to turn on notifications. And with all that aside, guys, hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.